it going? It's the Fuzz. So I got a little video here, and we're gonna talk about the top 10 most broken / most powerful cards to come out of the expansion. Now, in addition to these top 10, I also have kind of a list of honorable mentions, of which I picked 6. So we technically have top 16 cards. It's just that I figured that the honorable mentions just aren't quite on the same level, but still. For the record, of these 16 cards, there are no wisdom cards. There are 2 cards from every other aspect, and 8 cards in Dominion. That should kind of give you the idea of where the power balance is with this expansion, but anyways. Now, one more thing, I did not include cards like Reign of the Underworld because I don't consider them powerful, more cancerous, so we'll skip those. But anyways, without further ado, we're going to start with the honorable mentions, and yeah, so honorable mention number 6, the Descendant of Divinity. So when we first looked at this card, we thought, wow, it's a 4/6 with 3 speed. Are you crazy? With a ridiculously powerful effect as well. Well, the funny thing about this card is, yes, it's undoubtedly quite powerful, but the effect where it can only attack or block alone is interesting in that the Descendant is like the opposite of a win more card, because if you are already ahead, the Descendant doesn't actually help you get further ahead because it probably won't be able to attack, so it'll just be relegated to defense. Nonetheless, it's still, you know, of course, a tremendous body. 4/6 can kill just about anything, and being able to attack 2 things, it's no joke. But it didn't quite make the top 10 because, again, the effect prevents it from being too overpowered, and, well, let's just say that some of the other cards on the list are a lot less friendly than this one. The honorable mention, number 5. Forced Labor for Rage. Man, this card is pretty juicy. 3 Tortured Orcs is pretty powerful value on the board. I mean, 3 2/3s, that's a lot on turn 4. But the difference is you have to be able to activate them for them to do anything. And there's actually not that many reliable ways to do this. One is the Champion of the Revolt, which simply removes the slave tag. And the other is something like Blood Frenzy, which just lets you assign damage to these dudes and let them actually be able to do something. It's pretty powerful when it works, but because you have to use a secondary card to make it work, it's much more fair than some of these other cards. But still, I think this could easily create a deck, like a Rage Dominion Slave deck, because 3 Tortured Orcs, that's a lot of board presence. That's no joke. So I'm looking forward to trying out this card. Honorable mention, number 4, the Duke Value. That's what I like to call it. Duke Harsford represents a ridiculous value proposition for the Corruption deck, specifically the Zombie deck, where you can just resurrect several things multiple times over. But the only reason he's not higher up is because you have to build your deck around him, and the Zombie selection is not great, and if you put a weakness emblem on those things, they get a lot worse. Zombie Legionnaire is just a militia, so it's like whatever. Then the Abhorrent Ghoul becomes a Zombie Legionnaire. Insatiable Ghoul becomes like a 2/3, but it has anti-synergy with this. And cards like Zombie Giant and Hydra, you don't really want to run. So that prevents it from being like way ridiculous, but it's still, if you're playing zombies, and even if you just get like 1 or 2 things with him, it's still amazing. It's a lot of board presence, and it's a way for Corruption to just kind of come back. It's also an absolutely ridiculous top deck later on because you can play it, get 2 or 3 zombies, then if he dies, you get more zombies with him. But the zombies do go back to your deck afterwards, so it's not like you can just keep endlessly looping him, because that would be pretty broken. But yeah, I really want to see where zombies can go. Although they didn't get much else support, like they don't have like any card draw they can use. They kind of have to rely on this and Tombs of the Damned, other ways to get advantage, but we'll see. I mean, the zombie deck is gonna get a lot better with this and Abhorrent Ghoul, that's for sure. Honorable mention number 3, Gomer Iron Beatstick, or Gomer Iron Beatdown, as we have come to call him. This is the other giant order card. He's higher on the list than the Descendant because he doesn't have the drawback, And he has the option to be even bigger, or he can gain Lifebound. You know, it's a pretty flexible card. Being a 3-coster, you can play with Kayanu. I don't know how good that'll be, but it's an option. And in general, it's just nice to cost less mana. I think if Order ever tries to build like a, I don't know, a value deck, I guess, Gomer will be an insane addition to it. With 4 aspects, you can create an absolutely ridiculous creature. It could be a 5/6 with 3 speed. Could be a 5/4 with Lifebound and 3 speed. It's a beat stick. It is a beat stick, but because it's just a beat stick and has no immediate effect, unlike some of the other cards on this list, he kind of doesn't quite make it a top 10. But hey, it looks cool. He's got the victory screen here, and it's quite a victory. I think it's the best card Order got. Honorable mention number 2. Erulak Warborn. So another, like, really big creature. It seems like every aspect got one of these, more or less. So Erulak is a 5/5 unstoppable. That's a pretty respectable body. And his abilities are very interesting. The damaged creatures you control gain 1 attack is supposed to synergize with these cards like Blood Frenzy, so it'll kind of give them more attack. It's a cool idea. Your tortured orcs will have 3 attack each, which is pretty nice. But it's the second ability that really interests me, essentially being able to wipe the board by himself if you have enough mana. And, you know, if you play him and then you have 9 mana, you can do AoE of 3 damage. It's, you know, because that takes a lot of time and mana, he isn't higher up on the list, but the card looks really powerful. And once we see a lot of the Dominion stuff get tuned down, I think we'll definitely see cards like this and Battle-Scarred Elder see some play. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to this meta of just bigger creatures. And the number 1 honorable mention, now if you'll notice, I have not named any Dominion cards yet. Yes, 7 of the top 10 are in Dominion. Ridiculous. Anyways, Slave Gladiator. The reason it's on the list is because it's a 0 mana card. 0 mana cards are dangerous, and this guy can be very easily played, you know, in addition to your regular turn. Just throw him out there for 0. Tremendous tempo. And with Reverence, it's basically 0 mana redraw. So yeah, a lot of shenanigans. But again, he actually seems kind of fair compared to these other cards that are ahead of him, but still quite powerful, just because it's 0 mana. Anything that costs 0 mana is potentially very powerful. And now we move on to actual top 10. Starting us off, the Champion of the Revolt. It's basically, when it enters the field, draw a card, but you get to search it out. Now, it's a bit limited, but usually if you're playing him, you'll be playing slaves. So it is basically draw a card, but it's not just that. It removes the slave tag from them, so it's just amazing, especially with cards like Forced Labor. You play him, all your guys can attack. Also, other powerful slaves like Ogre Captive are just activated, so that Slave Rage Dominion deck, this guy's going to be the centerpiece of it and one of the most powerful cards. And if you're just playing him with something like Raging Minotaur, you just play this guy, search out Minotaur, and then play Minotaur next turn. Later on, if you have 6 mana, you can play this, search a Minotaur, and play the Minotaur. So you basically got a 5/5 and this guy with just 1 card. So that's tremendous value. It's almost like playing in Still Life in a way. Very powerful card. Although his power is somewhat decided by the power of the slave cards in the game. But the slaves are pretty good. You know, if nothing else, you can just search out the Gladiator and play it immediately with him. Then it's kind of like a slightly better Gibbo and Roni. Pretty good. Moving on to number 9, Soul Flames, another Dominion card. So the reason Soul Flames is on the list is because it's basically hard removal without a condition. You know, Devious Plot, you have to have the creature. Sudden death, the creature has to be damaged or something, or wounded in some ways. With Soul Flames, just kill whatever you want. Yes, you take some damage, but Dominion has life gain, so it's not a problem. And it even has a secondary effect where you can sack your own creature and gain some life. Now, yes, the life gain is equal to its, like, base HP, so there's no shenanigans with Power Seeker. But still, you know, if you're in a desperate position, just sack a Raging Minotaur or something, or some other big creature, get a bunch of life. But no, it's a great card, and it might even just replace Assassinate altogether, because it's the same, but it has no condition. Yeah, you lose some life, but again, that probably won't even be a problem. Really good card. I kind of wish it was in another aspect that doesn't have hard removal. I know it might not fit in terms of flavor, but as far as I'm concerned, gameplay, and balance are more important than lore and flavor. Moving on to number 8, Thyanor Wolftong. So this is the nature really big guy, and he's higher up on the list because I think his ability is much more powerful. He's also cheaper, so you can Kayana him out. Fun times. But the fact that he can summon a 4/4 with Swift is tremendously powerful, and if the 4/4 gets killed, like if it runs into a Karthus or something, summon another one. You can even summon Silverfang, sack him with Stronghold Metropolis, and then summon another Silverfang. So just the value this guy represents is tremendous. Also a really powerful value card if you just get him and the 4/4, and the constant threat of 4/4 wolves. It's pretty insane. It's a really good card, and I'm actually really glad it exists because it gives nature that late game punch that they just never had before. You know, and I like him better than Elgaron because he is playable early. He can be used as a mid-range creature even, you know, 3/3 body isn't bad at all. So, great card. Moving on to number 7, Vampiric Ashes. So, this might just be one of the best 2-drops in the game. Really, the only other competition is, yeah, Shadowstep Assassin, which is also in Dominion. It's a 0/5 that can't attack, kind of like Religar, but 5 health? I mean, almost no creature can actually kill this on turn 2, other than Assassin. It's tremendously strong on defense, but it's not just that. It has the ability to become a 2/3 attacker, just like the Tortured Orc, so it can actually fight back against aggro. It's insane. I mean, if you want to play like a control deck, you just throw this in, and Assassin, you've got like the best 2-drops in the game that can compete with anything else. It can protect you entirely. This can even become a 4/1 if you have the mana and just hit the face for 4. With Vampirism, it can become a 5/2 Lifebound that gives you 5 life when it attacks. So just an absolutely ridiculous 2-drop, and it probably should be nerfed because it seems like impossible to get over. I think just giving it 4 health would be a good start so that it becomes a 2/2 and it cannot like double trigger because it would be a 4/0 and would die. So that might be enough. Otherwise, cool card, but maybe give it to another aspect. I feel like Dominion has enough like really good cards, but maybe it's okay, but whatever. I'm not gonna get into details right now, but it's an amazing 2-drop. Moving on to number 6, Raging Minotaur, and this is where we start to get into the ridiculous cards. Like, that is a lot of stats for a 4-drop. 5/5 that has 3 speed on your turn. I don't know, I mean, it kills basically every other creature that comes before it. What else could even challenge it? Assassin because it has deadly, you know, and Temptress of the Sea because they have deadly, but 5/5 with 3 speed? That's absolutely ridiculous, and yes, it deals 2 damage to you, but it's gonna do 5 damage to your opponent. And again, you have access to Vampirism, and if you have Vampirism, the effect actually cancels out because he'll damage you, but then the Lifebound will trigger and give you back the life. So yeah, it's ridiculous. Yes, it's a slave, but that actually makes him better because that means you can search him out with Champion of Revolt. This is one of the reasons Champion of the Revolt is so insane. It's because you can search this card. And it's really funny because you can obviously tell it's supposed to be a rage card. Okay, I guess that captured him or something. But he's gonna have to be tuned up because he makes cards, these other big cards, just seem kind of crappy. Like, even cards like Atriska that Dominion have, the 5/5 flyer for 4 mana that makes you sack a creature. This is just better. And it's a bit of a shame. And it makes cards like Undead Hydra laughable in comparison. It's the same body as Undead Hydra. Yes, it loses Unstoppable, but it has 3 speed. Which is probably better, honestly. And it costs 2 less mana. The comparison is so one-sided in his favor. It's just hilarious. And the reason I think he has to be changed is because if you hit the cards above him, he'll just become the next problem card because it's just so powerful on turn 4. Now, we can't have a creature this big. Sorry. Anyways. Moving on to number 5. Scatador's Bidding is a card I have renamed to Scatador's Bitching because that exactly is what your opponent does when you play this card. It's a really miserable experience. Basically, when you play it, you start gaining like 4 to 5 life every turn. and your opponent starts losing life every turn. So it becomes a really, really difficult game where unless they're already about to kill you, you'll just gain so much life they can't kill you anymore, and they start losing life, and it just becomes a miserable experience. And you might think, well, you have to be spending mana. Well, because of some of the cards above this one, wasting mana is not a problem at all, and you can easily waste like 6 or 7 mana every turn and just gain minimum of 4 life or more, and you know, even just gaining 10 life is not impossible. You can do it with Power Seeker, although you're probably not going to run Power Seeker just for that. You don't think you really need to, but it's... I know a 4-aspect spell is supposed to be awesome, but I don't think it should be this oppressive, and that's exactly what this card feels like. Your opponent plays this, he starts healing, and then you're already getting pissed off, and then if you try to spend mana, you start burning for damage. And, you know, in addition to vampirism, you just can never kill them with life. And you can't play too many things because you'll start losing life. So, man. And the saddest part is, this card is rather tame in comparison to the 4 cards that are above it. And that's a bit scary. Anyways, number 4, and this is where we started to get the absolutely ridiculous category. Fleeting Fairy at number 4. The obvious problem with this card is it represents an unlimited source of creatures. You can just play it. It's always a blocker, if nothing else. But I mean, if that wasn't bad enough, with Stronghold Metropolis, you can play it, sack it to draw an extra card, and then just play it again. And once you have more mana later in the game, you just can sink mana and get free advantage. It's a, you know, platform for a devious plot. It can stop attackers from cards like Minotaur, and it's really obnoxious. If it wasn't for the bug that makes it kind of mess up when you have several of these on the board, this card would be absolutely ridiculous. And it is absolutely ridiculous because it's just unlimited creatures for, you know, everybody. And I think that's a bit dangerous. It also has 3 speed, so it's a really great blocker. I think one of the simplest fixes for this card is to make it 2-aspect. So you cannot sacrifice it with Stronghold. You should not be able to sacrifice this with Stronghold. That should have been the first thing the developers thought of when they saw this card. But, you know, they missed it. I mean, I'm not blaming them or anything. They work really hard just trying to keep everything from, like, crashing the game. And, you know, they did a pretty good job in that. But some things slipped through the cracks, and this is one of them. This interaction cannot remain. It's really, really dumb. Like, if you run this with Dominion, you just have unlimited card draw, basically. It's like basic Darius every turn for 2 mana. It's kind of like having Restless Tombs, which is what you did previously, where you played Restless Tombs and you just sack the zombies. You don't even need to play Restless Tombs. You just have this, and it's much easier to splash, and it can also serve as a blocker. I don't know. I'm not even sure it should remain this way. It's a dangerous proposition to have a creature that never dies. I mean, it's possible to kill it, but it's just very difficult. You have to helm it and then let it die, don't return it, or remove its energy with Herald, but that's about it. And yeah, I mean, if you have to helm this, they're just gonna play another one. Yeah, no, this card is insane. Moving on to number 3, Dr. Styx is a card which, even if it wasn't the demon, I think would be a problem, just because it's basically like an early game Karthus. Being able to hit a creature with cost 2 or less, there's a ton of targets. Any aggressive deck, you got guaranteed targets. Most mid-range decks, even, you have targets. Almost any deck, other than, I don't know, Vamplamp maybe, you have targets. But it's not just that. You can hit artifacts, you can hit Reflector, you can hit Vats, you can hit Obelisk of Unity, you can hit Dark Portal. It's just way too flexible. And, okay, because it's a demon, the card is absolutely godlike and makes demons completely impossible to beat, because they just search this out for 1 less mana, kill your creatures, hit for damage, search for another one, kill the next creature, and you just cannot stop this. But even without the demon tag, I think the card is an issue. And it cannot remain this way, because, you know, even disregarding the fact that it's a 6-4 late game, just as a 4-2 that can kill whatever blocker you have, it's just really rough. It counters so many things. It can kill Nienna, it can kill Namir, Cavalry Field Captain, Summoner Druid, you know, Force Mage Protector. My goodness, it's just... No, it cannot stay this way. There's no way. And the interaction with Raygon is absolutely hilarious, but that's not really a concern. Dr. Styx is going to need a redesign. My suggestion from the Great Rebalance project was to either make him a demon-only card, which means he could only target your board, so it would still be a great tool for disabling portals, but he wouldn't be able to just, like, kill your opponent's stuff. He would still help demons get better, but the funny thing about demons with this guy, 90% of the time, or hell, even 95% of the time, you don't destroy your own portal. You just destroy whatever creature they played, and then just completely overrun them. And you just kill them in like 5 turns. So, if you had to hit your own board, this card would be considerably worse, and it would only be playable in demons, obviously. And it would still make demons better, but not like to a ridiculous degree, because they still have to play this and stop their own portal. I actually like this change, because the only other alternative is to remove the demon tag and possibly that last ability. But I don't think so. I don't think it should have this many targets, because it's a splashable card for everything. It's like the new Blood-Seeking Mutant. It's so much better than Blood-Seeking Mutant because it kills a bunch of creatures instead of just hurting them a little bit. So, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but this card makes Blood-Seeking Mutant seem fair. And that is quite a feat. Oh well. Moving on to number 2. Prinha the Nightshade. And oh, how I'm starting to hate this card. Prinha the Nightshade is literally a turn 3 Karthus. Yes, it's slightly delayed, but it's a turn 3 Karthus. You play it, you kill a creature for free, and then you've got a 2/3 body. Okay, it's not a great body, but once you get to 3 aspects, it's a 3/4 with 4 speed. So it's a better body than Karthus. Not only that, she can kill anything. Not just 4 or lower, anything. And she costs less mana, and less aspects, and has a better body. Yes, if they remove their own creature, you don't get Prinha, but then it's still basically removal. So that's still fine for you. And if they don't remove it, it's as if you played Kayanu. It's as if you put her under Kayanu without having to have Kayanu, but instead of her coming out with a Might emblem, she kills something. Last time I checked, killing something is a lot better than putting a Might emblem on a friendly creature. So this card... This card just trivializes so many decks, because if you're trying to play these big creatures like Iron Beatstick, Prinha just kills it. And it makes creatures bad. The only way you can play creatures and have them matter is aggro, so that you kill them before Prinha just, overpowers you. Mid-range has no chance to exist with this card, because they get absolutely crushed by it. Not only do they have their stuff removed, a 3/4 with 4 speed is a pretty strong creature. So you're getting a very strong creature with a ridiculously good effect for a very low cost. And it's splashable. I mean, not that you have to splash it because it's in the minion. If this was in any aspect, it would be absolutely insane. So, no, this card absolutely must go away, because you can't even deal with it. It's giving an already overpowered aspect another overpowered removal card. And that's in addition to Soul Flames. Like, you don't even have to run Karthus anymore. This is better than Karthus. Alright. That's enough. And the number 1 card, which you already knew the moment you started watching this video, is Cloning Vats. A card that I think will basically single-handedly eclipse the entire meta and will be literally the center point of every deck. Some decks will run it and abuse it. Other decks will run 4-off cards that remove this, like Gnome Power Engineers, like Dr. Styx removes this, like Test of Time. Just because this card is just the best thing out there. It's a Tombs of the Damned that summons better creatures that cost less mana. Now, yes, you have to pay that 2 mana, but what pisses me off the most about this card is that you can summon the creature in the middle of combat, and you can use it to block something, to intercept an attacker. Your opponent is just sitting on this card with 2 mana, and you can't attack, because they'll just summon an Enchained Soul. Right? Or, if they already have a creature, they could summon the Moonsteel Miner and give something a Might emblem. Or just summon the 2/2 Soldier, which is better than a Zombie Legionnaire. And if you don't attack, they're gonna summon it anyway, and then next turn they'll just sacrifice it for a free card for 0 mana. And again, it is not legendary. So once you have several of these on the board, you just start producing entire armies of tokens, and you literally do not have to play another card again. Cloning Vats by themselves can produce Might Emblems, 3-speed flying blockers, and just good 2-3 bodies or 2-2 bodies that are not slaves. You don't need anything else once you have a couple Vats. So this card is overpowered on several levels, and it needs a severe nerf. And I mean, okay, the simplest thing is make it legendary, obviously. Like, several of these on the board? No, that's stupid. That's like allowing you to have multiple Tombs of the Damned, and we don't allow that for a simple reason, in that you just have a unstoppable horde of zombies. There's a reason why Tombs was made legendary. Second, do not allow these to be summoned on your opponent's turn, because end of turn creatures means that they cannot be attacked or removed, and in the middle of combat is the most obnoxious thing you can imagine, because you can't even attack. They can intercept any attack they want, basically. And if you don't attack, then they get a creature anyways. So, no, this card is, like, it's almost offensively bad. That's how powerful it is, like, to an offensive degree. So, yeah, I think once definitely this card, Prinha, Styx, Minotaur, Bidding, and I guess that's enough. Those cards need to get severely tuned down, and then the other stuff might actually start to be playable. It's possible that some of these other cards might be overpowered, but part of the rebalance project is to give more aspects, like removal and stuff, so that they are not left helpless against this sort of thing. So yeah, we'll see what happens. This is my top 10, technically top 16 list. If there's some other card you think is also overpowered I didn't mention, put it in the description. Oh, in the comments, I mean. And yeah. Anyways, thanks for sticking around. It's been a little bit longer than I thought, but hey, that's what we're here for. Now, again, this video is not me trying to like blame the developers for like not releasing balanced cards. I think the developers have done an amazing job, and this is simply because they have so much they have to do that we just don't see. Like, yeah, they want to balance everything, but they also have to program everything. Program all these interactions and make sure they work, make sure none of them break the game, and then still have time to balance everything. They are only human. There's only so much they can do. We cannot help them code the game, but we can help them balance it. And this was actually the bigger point of this video, is to just point out the flaws so we can address them, and then we can make the game better, which we should help them do. Anyways, see you guys next time. I'm done. I think I did my part. Stay awesome.